And there we are. So here is game number 1 between CheckSix and Rain. Now, you pronounce that name right there, Mr. Taylor.
Mkengyn.
Silent
K, maybe?
Mkengyn? That's a big MK. That's a CheckSix MK, as I'm going to call him.
Sure.
He is spawning as our teal Zerg player.
I'm all for that.
On Xel'Naga Fortress, his opponent down here, the bottom left-hand corner, is Rain Perfect. He is spawning as our green Protoss player.
And thank God we finally get to see this map in tournament play. I really like our map selection. We've got a bunch of good heads on the team putting together good, solid rules for all the events that we're coming out with now. And I feel like, we're one step ahead than a lot of the other tournaments because we're starting to use the GSL maps, and they make for much better games than a lot of the ladder maps, than a lot of the old school maps. We go back to this all the time, but it just sucks so much that tournaments haven't all adopted the same maps.
Yeah, I mean, we really don't have that sort of overarching organization like Caspa or anything
not
like that to tie everything
together.
Union. No, not really. So, I mean, I guess, as has been in the press recently, for lack of a better term, SC2 Con in Korea has obviously got a lot of attention.
Yeah, it's
with
like a
withdrawal
mild
from NASL
form of
and
a
such.
players' union, right?
Right.
But, that is really where it should come from. That is the body that would have control over the map selection. They could just be like, look, these are the maps we like. We've voted on them. We're the players. Tournaments use them, period. But every tournament wants to throw their logo work up on the maps and make new versions of it and add different things here and there, and it creates a very different balance dynamic on every map. And you'll hear in interviews from any of the top players that people just get frustrated with it. I've seen a couple interviews with Rhett where he's super upset about MLG map selection and map imbalance and just having to deal with all that crap like 2 weeks before a tournament.
Yeah.
And just practice in a whole different way than you would normally play.
And I do think we have a very, very good map pool. We actually have 10 maps because it is a best of 9 maximum, 5v5 format, of course, winners format for the Team Arena. That way, not every map is forced to be used, and teams will still have some sort of a pick within there. But I really do like this map. This is Xel'Naga Fortress, of course. It is a 3-player map, so you're never quite sure where your opponent's going to be at. You have to scout, but yet it doesn't have those 4-player close position tendencies like you see on some of the bigger ladder maps.
Yeah.
It looks like we have second gas coming down now for Perfect, but everything looking pretty standard out of our 2 players at this point.
Yep. Perfect, probably going to go with that ever so common 3-gate expo with the 2 gas, get some sentries out. Especially on a map like this with a pretty wide open natural, and we have a couple lings out now getting rid of that probe that was blocking the natural, and Perfect's going to lose that right off the bat, so he's not going to be able to get any more scouting info. Would have been nice for him to get that probe back out on the map somewhere and then sneak out and come back in a little bit later on, because... well, that's what I like to do anyway. It's nice to get that really early info, get the pool timing, get the expansion timing, and then get out of there, come back around the 6-minute mark, 6-minute 30 mark, and you can really gauge what they're up to. If you see a bunch of lings pop out, oh, he might be going for a baneling bust. He might be trying to attack my natural with a bunch of speed lings. You can deduce a lot at certain minute marks with your scouting. I think that's something that I would want people to take away.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage in the game, I mean, he saw the expansion coming up. After that was done, it's not like, MK was going to cancel and throw down any sort of tech with the probe running around there, so he wasn't going to find out any more information. If he just runs it away, even if all it does later on is drop down a forward pylon, at least he doesn't have to sacrifice another probe to get that done.
I totally agree. And now we have a couple speedlings. Wow, interesting that he actually researched speed so early on only to grab 2 lings here. He might produce some more and try and get some damage done at the natural. We'll have to see. He just spawned some larvae with spawn larvae.
Lots of drones.
Lots of drones. So he is going to macro out of this and not going to try and harass the expansion here. And I love the gateway wall from Perfect right there. That just makes things extra tight. It's going to be very difficult to break that.
I believe we saw this last week from him as well. Ended up working very well then, and I think it's going to be pretty successful now, because it doesn't look like Mr. CheckSix MK. I still don't know how to say that name, and and it annoys me, but is not going to put on any sort of early pressure. In fact, we see the Evolution Chamber coming up, and there's the Roach Warren. So I was actually kind of surprised when I saw the Evolution Chamber come up. I thought he was going to do some sort of a +1 attack, but it looks like Roach Warren is on the way. Ooh! We do have a Stargate coming up for Perfect.
We do indeed. So he's... ooh, and a Robo. Wow, he's hitting both tech paths at the same time. You don't usually see that. Are we going to see an Observer here or Super Quick Colossus? That's the question. I think he's going to get an Observer, but why get the Observer if you're going to have the Phoenix and Void Rays out to scout what the Zerg is up to?
Well, last week, I believe he did something very similar. I want to say it was on Shattered Temple. Yeah, he did do that. He did the 1-gate expand into the 3-gate with the wall, and then a Robo and Stargate on top of it, and he went straight in Void Ray Colossus, like right away. It left him really susceptible to any sort of early pressure, but he didn't have it and was able to get up just an astounding army relatively quickly after that. Looks like Mr. MK is going to get in there and see a bunch of sentries, that he doesn't show any inclination of putting on any pressure.
It's really surprising that he actually hasn't made a Forge yet, just in case. If you watch a couple replays of Perfect, I think hitting a pretty solid Roach Ling timing push on the natural would be devastating for him. He's only defending with a few sentries right now, but he's going to have that Void Ray come out in a second here. And that could help deal with any kind of a potential all-in. And he is going to get the Observer and a Void Ray. So not only is he going to be scouting with his air units in a little bit here, he's also going to be scouting with that Observer. So he really wants to find out what Perfect is up to. I mean, really wants to find out what MK is up to.
Right.
I don't think there are going to be any surprises, though.
No, not at all. Everything pretty standard at this point. The Roach one is down. No upgrades have been started yet. Oh, there we go. As soon as I say it, the Glio Reconstitution comes up, so Roach speed is on the way. Perfect going to be able to get in there and do some damage. Looks like only 2 queens up, so he should be able to kill a couple of drones before the second queen comes down and joins the fight.
I was thinking that he was going to use the Observer to deny creep, but he's not doing that with the Void Ray. That would have been interesting. That makes the Observer much more useful if you start picking off those creep tumors with the first Void Ray, but right now looks like he wants to prevent the third from potentially going down. There's not going to be anything there, and he's going to drop the third in mid here. Maybe that 12 o'clock position a little bit more common. Second Void Ray out now as well for Perfect. And is he teching up to Colossus? Yes, he is. We have a Robotics Bay on the way, and he's getting those weapon upgrades.
Artosis pylon to the max. That thing goes down, and he is done.
In trouble.
Yes, but here we go. A couple more Zealots are warping in. Like you said, the third coming up. Looks like the Void Ray did turn around. It is going to find it. I want to mention to people in chat who are asking, yes, indeed, if CheckSix wins, they will get a $700 prize because they win $500 for the week and the $200 bounty that's currently on Team Rain, as they have won 2 weeks in a row, looking for their third victory. I've got to say, they've been pretty strong in this tournament so far, knocking off EG in week number 1 with a very convincing performance.
Yeah, I mean, if they can continue this run, that would be fantastic for them. Once, we'll see how they perform against, Fnatic, Dignitas. That's a lot of idle probes.
Oh, no!
Good lord. Oh, that hurts.
But as Taylor was just kind of hinting at right there, we've already reached out to teams like Fnatic and Dignitas. FXO has expressed interest in playing again Vile, so we've got some very, very good teams queued up. I believe next week we have Vile, which is, of course, going to comprise States, Benishiwa, Dodoro. I'm forgetting a couple of people already. Hawk. So there are some very, very good players on that team.
Yeah, there are indeed. And as we see those better teams start to get into the mix here, if Rain is able to continue their dominance and stay on top, then that would be astounding because they're a fairly new team. I know they're starting a pro house locally here in the Bay Area pretty soon, but they're not there yet, and it's a fairly new team. But they have the skill. The skill is there. The raw talent is there 100%. There's no doubt about it. They just haven't been together as a team for very long.
And looks like, getting back to the game here, CheckSix MK has gone off after that Roach Hydra composition. He's staying very, very passive, doing some pretty good creep spread, as a matter of fact, but still staying relatively passive. This looks like almost a classic PvZ game where one player is going after that very traditional death ball of Void Ray Colossus while we see the counter of the Hydra and
Standard Protoss business. He's going to sit back and macro and continue to build up the Void Ray Colossus count, and that's such a vicious unit combo. He is falling back in supply, though. 116 right now to 149, so MK actually doing a great job macroing. I'd love to see him take a fourth here and just continue to keep up the good macro. possibly hit a timing here at the third, because right now Perfect is super vulnerable to some kind of a
really
push.
But right now, oh god, is Hydra's going to be able to catch a Void Ray? Yes, one goes down, not being able to do any damage. The second is forced to back off back into this Protoss ball here in the middle of the map. Looks like Colossi needs to get its way forward. There it goes. But like you said, you know, and this is very, very similar to what I saw last week. Perfect was able to sit back and macro for a long period of time, and then he had the tech in place. We'll talk about that in a second as a couple of force fields go down, able to catch most of the Hydras, actually. The Hydras going down very, very quickly.
And those force fields were stacked on top of each other. They didn't cut all the units in half there. He could have actually taken out about half the army right there. And it looks like he's going to try and make his move here. Heading into the third, that's a lot of roaches, though. If he's able to get up close and personal, he could do some decent damage. A lot of Stalkers starting to go down.
Wow.
But those Colossus in the back are just devastating everything.
+2 attack. Oh my god.
Charged Void Ray, 3 Colossus, Protoss Death Ball. Go.
Wow. That's kind of disgusing, actually.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Third base about to fall. Nothing that MK can do about it. He's trying to rally as many units as he can. He does have an abundance of drones. They're going to have to provide a little bit of a meat shield, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. Looks like Perfect has this game pretty well in hand.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if a Muta switch would have worked out for him there, because, you know, Perfect was investing so much in Colossus and Void Rays. Muta's obviously great against both those units. He would have dwindled in his Stalker count. He didn't have Blink. But as is, he has the perfect unit composition to deal with roaches, and that's what MK continues to make, and he is going to lose all his remaining roaches and these drones that are coming out to attack the Colossus.
Yep.
A little bit of a foolhardy effort right there, and Perfect just handling business right now.
Drone's not the hard counter to Colossi.
No, not at all.
There was one Infester out, but that was a lot of tech invested to do not very much damage. Looks like the Pathogen Glance did finish. A few more roaches coming up for a last-ditch effort. All of these drones are caught back there. Look at the way the Colossi just mow through them. There's a GG. And Perfect is taking game number 1 for Rain.
Rain, once again, taking the first game.